Self-driving cars. They have the extraordinary potential to transform our lives, giving us precious time back during our morning commute, providing elderly and disabled people with mobility options, and generating exciting business propositions. Elon Musk has said, "The fundamental message consumers should be taking today is that it's financially insane to buy anything other than a Tesla. It'll be like owning a horse in 3 years. I mean, fine if you want to own a horse, but you should go into it with that expectation." Musk and others in the self-driving car industry have made grand claims about autonomous vehicles, saying that by 2020 they should be driving on the streets without any human input. However, academics and experts in robotics and machine learning have raised concerns about risks associated with self-driving vehicles. I'd like to start by outlining the major risks and then presenting a potential solution. Dr. Mary L. Cummings of Duke University outlines in a Senate hearing on autonomous vehicles and in a paper co-written with MIT PhD candidate Jason Ryan these 5 major risks. First, bad weather. Snow, rain, and fog can block the LiDAR sensor's ability to process the environment. 2. GPS unreliability. Self-driving cars rely on GPS to navigate their environment, and in certain areas, such as cities with tall buildings, there is poor GPS signal. 3. Construction zones. Machine learning doesn't work well in edge cases, and the model may have trouble recognizing complex traffic signals that are commonly associated with construction zones. 4. Cybersecurity. Since the car is software-based and information is transmitted over a network, there's high potential for hacking. 5. The question of liability. In the case of an accident, which of all of the stakeholders are liable? Who should take responsibility if something happens? Should it be the consumer, the rideshare company, the software engineer, or the hardware manufacturer? Now that we have a better understanding of some of the major risks, let's work towards the solution. I believe that when fully autonomous vehicles are released to the public, it should be under a rideshare model, like Lyft or Uber. And once users enter a particular route, companies should be expected to calculate something called a safety score. The safety score should be based upon the mitigation of the risks outlined above. The score would be higher in the case of good weather, reliable GPS signal, and no obstructing construction zones along the route at the time of the ride. Only safety scores above a certain threshold should be allowed for users to ride in a self-driving car. When the technology is first introduced, we should set the bar pretty high, and over time, as we gather more data, we can come up with better predictors for safety. Now let's tackle the other risks we mentioned earlier. Cybersecurity should also be the responsibility of both the software provider and hardware manufacturer, and they should be working in conjunction with one another. The benefit of the rideshare model is that companies have access to the vehicles and can ensure hardware is properly maintained and software updates are properly installed. In terms of liability, since companies are generating the safety score and providing the vehicles, they should be liable if anything goes wrong. Likewise, companies should have the right to deny their rideshare service to people based on a low safety score. That is, companies should not be obligated to take on risks that could lead them to situations with massive liability. This is a win-win for both companies who don't want to take expensive risks and consumers who don't want to be put in unsafe situations. The calculation of a safety score also raises the important issue of algorithmic transparency. In her book, Weapons of Math Destruction, Cathy O'Neil describes algorithmic models as opaque, unquestioned, and unaccountable. While many of the machine learning algorithms behind self-driving technology are proprietary because of competition, the safety score doesn't need to be. In fact, it is a great opportunity for companies to win public trust by developing a code of ethics based upon transparency and informed consent. The algorithms underlying the calculation could be completely open to the public so that consumers understand what factors go into calculating the score, and researchers can identify any gaps in the model and suggest improvements. This will require a concerted effort on the part of the government to collaborate with private industry. While this may seem like a monumental task, there have been several historical precedents, even in the field of transportation. In 1956, President Dwight D. Eisenhower invested billions of dollars to build a national highway system in America under the Federal Aid Highway Act. We can put forth similar investments in our infrastructure that could make road lanes easier for machines to recognize and thus make autonomous transportation safer. In 1965, Ralph Nader wrote a watershed book called Unsafe at Any Speed that exposed the auto industry's lack of adherence to safety standards. Because of him and the legislation that followed, cars are much safer today. Since the founding of our nation, enshrined in our Constitution is philosopher John Locke's ideal that the government should protect our natural rights to life, liberty, and property. In a modern sense, that implicit social contract still exists between not only the government and its citizens, but also companies, to protect our safety and well-being. Companies, public officials, and informed citizens have an obligation to communicate these risks transparently to the public. I'm a strong believer in the technology and its potential, but we should be careful about overhyping things and take the necessary precautions. Normally, a software bug on the internet can cause your Windows to crash and make you lose your data. In the case of autonomous vehicles, that same bug can cause your car to crash and make you lose your life.